first really realized it when I was about 8 years old. I just, like I said, I noticed I wasn't happy and not just like a somewhat sad feeling, but a serious down, prolonged down feeling. And I just knew that this wasn't normal. And with knowing that my dad has depression and knowing full well I could possibly have it too, I told my dad, I think I got your depression.
For myself, I had a lot of depression in my days, and some of it was stress related, school related. But at first it really manifested as anxiety, which I think Zach has also manifested as, and ultimately, depression. You're lonely, you're not happy with things, and you just realize you're not enjoying things like you should, and you're taking things personally. You're very edgy, and you don't trust people, and you just start realizing that's not necessarily how you should be feeling.
Depression is America's most common mental illness in teenagers and adults. Roughly 20 million suffer from depression every year. That's around 7% of our population alone. 1 in 4 people have either experienced or suffered with depression, and 15 to 20% of teens will experience depression before adulthood.
The main thing I see when students come to report that they feel depressed is a general feeling of sadness and often a loss of interest, whether it be in school activities, hanging out with friends, even doing their schoolwork. They report they don't feel like they want to get up in the morning, they want to lay in bed all day. Those are the general things that I hear kids tell me when they say that they feel depressed.
I mean, the most common feelings or emotions that come with it I would say would be like hopelessness and helplessness and this extreme loss of control. So, it's like an impending darkness that it's really difficult to escape. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen those antidepressant commercials. There's this one, I'm not sure which one it was for, but the woman has a black robe and she's clinging to her and she's trying to tear it off and she can't tear it off, and no matter how hard she tries, this robe just clings to her, this darkness. And I think that's a lot of what comes with depression, is that no matter how hard you try to escape, no matter how much people want to think that it's just a decision we make, it's not necessarily. It's something that clings to you.
When it comes to being diagnosed with depression, there are certain criteria you have to make.
To be called a psychiatric disorder in the Manual of Mental Health, it's called the DSM. In order for a disorder to be named and to be in there, it has to have a certain number of cases per the population. It actually has to be very rare in order to be classified as a disorder, because those feelings are so normal. So in order for it to be classified through a mental health personnel that you have depression, that is actually, it means that compared to the rest of the population, you actually have really severe symptoms.
About half of people diagnosed with depression are also diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. Anxiety is basically a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about a certain event or problem.
It was the day before I graduated 8th grade. We had this whole ceremony for 8th grade graduation. The night before, my parents have been divorced ever since I was a little kid, since before I've had depression, but that's beside the point. They had just started a court battle over my custody because my dad wanted to spend more time with me and I wanted to spend more time with my dad. And my mom, that day, she had just confronted me about it, and I don't know why. Just as I tried to go to sleep, I I just broke out into hysterics. I just couldn't sleep straight or think straight. I couldn't sleep. I felt like I was losing my mind. I was bawling my eyes out. I I actually had to go into the living room and call my dad because I didn't know what was going on or what to do or what was happening. I couldn't do anything. I felt like I was going to die, and I wanted to die right there.
All right, so depression and anxiety are kind of similar in that they start as kind of negative thoughts or irrational thoughts within a person, kind of starts with the person's cognitions. Eventually, it can progress into a disorder where there's a chemical imbalance and you would require medical intervention. Most of the time, if it's a mild case, you can start with cognitive behavioral therapy where you're challenging a person's cognitions about themselves. And then that can kind of lead to successful therapy and not always require medical intervention.
Him, when your best friend comes to you about depression, there's not much you can say other than, all right, how do I help? Zach comes to me with everything, and I try to help him as much as I can, but there's some things that you can't help him with. But supporting him, when he's come to me with a panic attack or anxiety, I just remember I bring up the bright sides other than the bad sides. It seems to help him. So I just support him by being a good friend, I guess.
He was sad. He came to me. We were just talking about it, maybe in 5th grade, maybe 4th. I think it was 5th grade, and we started seeing a psychotherapist, and we went to a couple of sessions, and he and his mom went to a couple sessions, and they tried to get his sister involved in the sessions, and she wasn't too cooperative. But ultimately, Zach wasn't really thrilled with the therapy, and we let it go. And we tried to um, see what was going to happen, and see if he snapped out of it or just getting mature helped. But then in the next year,
there's there's being able to distract yourself, being able to just like force yourself to do simple tasks one at a time. So wake up, okay, get out of bed. Just that's like the next thing. Don't think about anything but the next thing that you have to do. And these kinds of coping mechanisms help. But I would say utilizing therapy as a tool from a professional is a huge help, and especially in learning those coping mechanisms. The thing that I would say is that learning these coping mechanisms, while helpful, it takes time to actually implement them.
Anxiety or depression are just these long periods of stress, loneliness, sadness. I would say anything that you can do to help somebody else. It might be the smallest thing helping, where you go over to a neighbor's house, an elderly neighbor, and help them unpack their groceries or carry something or help them move something, or you go to a soup kitchen, you volunteer your time, or you help watch a younger sibling. I mean, just anything that you do to help others always helps yourself.
Depression is something you can get through.
It really does get better. If you just hang in there, you get the help you need, and talk it out with friends, family, or sometimes even by yourself. I've done that a couple times, and I feel better. I'm never feeling anxious. I just talk and let it out. It helps me out a lot. No matter where you think you are with your depression, you just need to find that one thing that helps you out, and your whole world just brightens up.
If you or a loved one are feeling depressed, go to teenline.org.